يمين وشمالي يتفقد وأعمالك والنايم ماله مالك ساقيت الليل مالك خدموك ورغم جمالك شوروا عمالك وقفوا يمين وشمالي يتفقد وأعمالك والنايم ماله مالك ساقيت الليل مالك خدموك ورغم جمالك يا أهل الجوارح الطيبة أخلاقهم سمحة وطيبة شموا الروائح الطيبة وزاروا الرسول في طيبة ساقيت الليل مالك خدموك ورغم جمالك خدموك ناس الجيلي والبدوي وافر الكيلي حين يركبوا في الخيل ويلفوا يعدلوا الميلي
The social contributions of Sufis in Sudan, Part 4. Sufism in Sudan, a profound influence reflected in names. Dear audience, this is part 4 of our presentations to the social roles that have been played by Sufis in Sudan. And for this, I would like to welcome you to go further in our presentations to the social roles that have been played by Sufis across times, across different places. In our previous sessions and episodes, we explored the significant role of Sufis in shaping the geography of Sudan, founding villages, nurturing the growth of towns in the country, and bridging and building bridges of reconciliation across individuals, families, communities, and tribes. We also highlighted their lasting impact in sustaining social cohesion and harmony. However, we continue further, introducing more influence and impact of Tasawwuf in Sudan. I'm speaking here in terms of the social contributions of the Sudanese Sufis. So in this episode, we turn our attention to another fascinating and often overlooked dimension of this influence: the powerful presence of Sufism in Sudanese names. So just our focus this time will go on to highlight the powerful, the strong presence of Sufism in Sudanese names. And in this concern, we take Sufism as part of Sudan's social fabric. When we speak of Sudan, we cannot escape the overwhelming presence of Sufism. It is not just a spiritual current, nor merely a religious order. It has become woven into the very fabric of life, coloring Sudan's identity in unique ways, from the gatherings that echo with devotional praise to Quranic schools vibrant with recitation, to Sufi lodges filled with disciples. Sufism penetrates everything, even the smallest details of daily life and daily living. Moreover, when we look closer, we find that the most enduring testimony to this presence is not only in the shrines or gatherings, but in something deeply personal and lasting: the names that Sudanese families carry generation after generation. So just you would like to see names as spiritual legacy. In Sudan, names are not chosen randomly. They are vessels of meaning, carriers of heritage, and symbols of belonging. When a father names his son after a Sufi Sheikh, he is not merely giving him a title. He is gifting him a legacy, clothing him in spiritual inheritance, and linking him to a man of God whose life was a beacon of blessing.
قميص يوسف نجد يعقوب، ويا من نجى يونس منه مسح القوب. أحمد أخو الضعاف البنحر معرقوب، بدل سهروا بينهم الهنا المرغوب. تسلم من رقاد العلة يا المهيوب، نسيم العافية لك يا الحي كرامة يؤوب. تعيش يا البيخيان تجارة ماك مريوب، تعيش يا السنجك المسلت صبر أيوب. طول هج على التايه غريب بتلفت، اكسير الضرر له الشوارع لفت. باهي الرزق رحمن القلوب الخفت، ايده بشاير الطرف بروق الرفت.
Across Sudan, we encounter names such as Al-Hamim, Bannaga, أحمد الطيب، التياني، المرقني، المكاشفي، حمد النيل، السماني، سر الختم، عبد المحمود، الكباشي، يوسف، الريح، الهندي، الإدريسي، البدوي، الدسوقي، الرفاعي. So as you listen, the audience, this is the most widespread names among Sudanese. And as we try to focus in this episode, the audience, we try, as you follow, we try to present the social contributions and at the same time the impact and the influence of Sufism in Sudan, in the Sudanese society. And as you listen, such name indicate the impact of Tasawwuf in naming the newborn, and at the same time indicate the social contributions of Sufis across different times and across different places. And such name, by the way, as we are going to see, each one stands as a symbol in a particular place, in a particular geographical location in the country. So each one of these names tells a story. Each one maps onto a lodge, a saintly act, or a spiritual memory. Together, they form a living atlas of Sudan's Sufi orders and the senates who shaped them.
فيك الظن جميل والنظرة ما بتتأخر، المرض الأصاب أحمد زبد يتبخر. جود بفضلك اللي كله شر يزيل، محمد يا نبي الرحمة العطاه جزيل، يا المدحك إله القدرة في التنزيل، كم لطفك جبر مكسور ودا وهزيل. الله أكبر. يا شيخ القمر بأبوك قمر الدين، ويا حسين وتحمد وبشلة يا الزاهدين، سبع الدر يا الفوق الصلاح راقدين، ليه صاحبي بسوالف مرتاع الواردين، يا النقر الكبير وابواتك الصوفية، ويا رجال العزازة البينوا المخفية، والضبو ضوى يا ابو نصيره وبألفية، وجا أحمد تقتل شرارة مطفية.
Dear audience, I would like to reminding you that I'm presenting the social contributions of Sudanese Sufis. So just here we have the Senate's Awliya, alive in collective memory. But the list does not stop here. So as you follow and you listen, the audience, just I mentioned some of the outspread of names in terms of fame and reputation across the country. So the list that just I recited or read is not stopped there. It extends to names like Jaili, Al-Bakri, Nurdai, Sid Ahmed, Muhammad Al-Amin, Muhammad Usman, Muhammad Toom, Al-Qurashi, so on and so forth. So the list go on. And by the way, uttering each name, then the listener recall those familiar with the Sudanese society. Whenever I pronounce one of such name, then what is cross the mind of the listener is that this is a Senate that's located in the area so and so. So each of these names resonates with history. They remind us of figures like Shah Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, and by the way, the name al-Jili is so widespread name among Sudanese in all Sufi orders. And as you know, and as the history of Tasawwuf in Islamic world inform that Shah Abdul Qadir al-Jilani is one of the greatest and the four pools and qutb of Tasawwuf in the Islamic world. So families like Al-Bakri on the other side furthermore indicates that such a name belongs to our master Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and for this we find this name is widespread also among Sudanese, particularly among Sufis.
يا أهل الكشف ما طولوه مجالا يا سبغوا هيب للفزع شمروا وسروا لموا على السناهير بالكتوف إن عصروا أكشفوا على الزنود الوافي حاتم عصروا زيلوا البيهو بالنصر المبين انتصروا شرف الدين أبو النجد المقابل الجيب ويا حامد ولي الجبل أبعصاتا سيف أحمد ودعلي الهايج ليالي الصيف تتمع في التنتهن ويتم الكيف أبو العوضية سلمان سلم المواصل دور الكردة يا علم الديان الباسل صاحب أسد معارك شكر تحصيل حاصل أعمل بينه والمرض المطول فاصل.
So these names, by the way, the names of the Sufis is not confined only to villages nor rural areas. It is there in the urban cities, and for this I have presented in a previous episode that Sudanese Sufis have greatly contributed in the establishment and the foundation of many villages and cities. And among the cities that I have stated in the capital, Khartoum, by the way, we find that such a superb like Tuti, Hillet Hamad, Khojalab, these names, by the way, attributed to the noted famous Awliya, and that is Sheikh Hamad ud Marium, the founder of Hillet Hamad, which is part of Khartoum Bahri, and at the same time we have Tuti, we have Khojalab attributed to Sheikh Khojali Abu Jaz. So, as I told, naming cities, naming towns, naming villages is not confined only to rural areas. And Sufis, as I told, have their contribution in the establishment of these cities, of these villages across different parts of the country.
يا سلاح الحقيقة ما بتقابله مدافع تقال أحمد بدور كله كف الرافع صلاح بحرازة على القبب سلسلة جاتكم صيحة يا العظمى التكشف العلة في عين القلب لكم أعز محلة أحمد ينسند قمر البلد والحلة ولاد العركة الواقفين بنية بنية ومدني السني قايد حملة السنية علة ودعلي المدعصية وزمنية فيها بدور كرامتكم تكون علنية قمر بيه وبروس إذا الحفيرة المدة مكي الشابك القلب القضاري في جدة وراجل الصوفي مكي السر في الناس شدة شيلوا مرض رفيقين ما بيعرف الهدة والتكتوك فرح كوكب شريك سنار لاقي الصيحة يا البيك المظلم نار يا زاهد حلوها وخيرة والدينار عالك صاحبي بسير وطفي حر النار.
Names as the strongest proof of Sufism depths. From north to south, east to west, Sudan is filled with such names. Names of the awliya that I have stated part of them. They are not simply labels but repertoires of memory, spiritual compasses pointing back to Sufis and Senates. When a child is called Tijani, or Hamad al-Nil, or al-Jaili, or Mirqan, or Sammani, the very sound of the name recalls centuries of remembrance, Quranic devotion, and love. Thus, Sufism in Sudan, therefore, is not confined to ritual or poetry. It lives in the names, in the identity of the people themselves, in the daily breath of society.
معذور ما بيشوف بمراية
يا سلام.
بجاه النبي المعصوم وبخلفاه والعشر الكرام النال بعطفاه وسر الصالحين الجمل صفاه. أحمد يا كريم من المرض تعفاه.
يا سلام.
A sociological and ethnographic perspective. In this part of our episode, the audience would like to see the view, the perspective of the sociologist and ethnographic view of Sudanese naming after Ulia. From a sociological angle, the system of names even acts as a social map. In Sudanese society, three-part names often reveal a person's spiritual lineage and geographic roots. For example, names like Sid Ahmed, Muhammad Usman, Muhammad al-Hassan signal links to Khatmiya. This indeed is one of the most powerful testaments to the enduring role of Sufism in Sudanese society. But more specific personal names and surnames used by the Riverian people that have a religious association are those connected with Sufi orders. The surnames Al-Mahdi, Al-Mirqani, Al-Hindi, Sammani, Al-Majzoub indicate that the person is a descendant of the founder of a Sufi order and by extension a follower of that order. In particular, the use of the personal names Sir al-Khatim, secret of the seal, Khatmi, belonging to the Khatmiya Sufi order, and Mirghani, the family name of the founder of the Khatmiya Sufi order, among the Shaigiya and other tribes indicates their barriers association with the Khatmiya Sufi order. What is significant about religious names and titles is that they are a means of identification. They confer religious status and power, particularly titles, and their use is claimed to bring blessing to the bearer. For more information in this particular context, I refer you to Ahmed al-Shahi in his study Personal Names and Nicknames among the Riverian people of the north of Northern Sudan, published study 1988.
يا فريدة أنتم مدفع صيت وأكيدة ما بتغلبكم هذه الصيلة يا هلا الراكب الفات بليل وما فيكن واحد شاد حيلو أحمد وأحمد شيل والعدلان فوق رأس الدين.
Meanwhile, names such as Dafa'allah, Yusuf, Ahmad al-Nil, Abdul Baqi al-Rayah, Abu Agla often belong to the Arakiyun. So once you state or mention that your name is so, for example, is Hamad al-Nil or Abdul Baqi or even al-Rayah, then the listener directly located you in Arakiyin area, and at the same time locating you religiously and in terms of Sufism into the Arakiya Qadiriya Sufi order. From another hand, Ahmad al-Tayyib, Sammani Nur al-Daim, Bashir Qurashi are common names among the Sammanis, and by the same token, if you listen that you tell that your name is Sammani nor your name is Al-Qurashi, then the listener directly identified you as a follower of the Sammani Sufi order. While Hajub and Naga Yaqub are common among the Yaqubab, and names like Al-Ibaid, حسب الرسول بدر indicate that you are from the area of the Badrab, that is the follower of الشيخ العبيد والبدر. الهميم الباغر البدوي الميرين الجنيد are signs that take your listener into Sadgab identification, while الإمام السيد الهادي عبد الرحمن الصديق الصادق are markers of Ansar affiliation. Meanwhile, التجاني محمد الحافظ الفاتح are sign for the affiliation to the Tijaniya Sufi order. Thus, Sudanese names are not simply individual identities, but symbolic tools, windows into the spiritual and social geography of the country.
صحابي والغوث يا طول الأغطابي الشبلي وبدأ بالنشادي أرخو السر لهذا الداقي.
Finally, as we close this episode, the audience, let us pause to reflect. In Sudan, a name is more than a name. It is a blessing, a history, and an inheritance among Sufis. It is the whisper of a sheikh, the fragrance of a lodge, the memory of a senate. And so, when we walk through Sudanese villages or even towns, or sit in their social gatherings, we realize that Sufism is not only present in books, nor poetry, nor dhikr, but inscribed into the very identity, into the heart of the Sudanese, carried on their tongues and passed on to their children. And as you listen, the audience, this is just part of the strongest impact, the strongest influence of Sudanese in the society. And as you listen, just we handle the Sufi contributions, impact and influence in Sudanese society through naming their children. And by the way, this indicates that such great names, Al-Khatim, Tijani, Samani, Ahmad Tayyib, Al-Rayyah, Abu Agla, all of these indicate the strongest presence of Sudanese Tasawwuf in the country. And at the same time, inform that this heritage, this legacy is so ancient, is so deep, and so strong, and have a strong belief among Sudanese. By this, the audience, I came to the end of the episode. Till seeing you in another episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.